So now I'm going to value one of the biggest books I have in the shop. Whenever I pull this out, people are like, oh my God, that's like right out of a Harry Potter movie. But this is not a book on sorcery. This is actually a 16th century liturgical music book. This is what we call an antiphonal. So this dates from about the late 16th century, about 1575. And this was the type of service book you would have used for singing chants and hymns in a Roman Catholic service. It's very large because, sometimes several people had to sing from the book, and they're made to be quite durable. You can see, for instance, the what we call the brass bosses on the calf binding, and those were so that large books, because these would often come in a set, would not bang up against each other and damage the underlying calf. So they acted like a sort of doorstop for the book. And I can open it up here. And oftentimes these were either of Spanish or Italian origin. They contained a lot of Gregorian chants and other hymns. Going back to the time of Pope Gregory, after which they're named, but probably these types of chants even predated that. They might have gone back to the Roman times, even Hebrew melodies. This example is a typical Spanish example. It's got the 5-line staff, which was often typical to Spanish music of the period, but more clearly it has the penwork initials, which are very beautiful and incorporate some of the Islamic elements you would often find that entered Spanish culture, especially in the south of Spain. It's got a very wonderful peacock here. So if you've ever been to Spain, especially I remember from my trip to Andalusia, you saw a lot of peacocks running around there. So it's very beautiful. It's done on vellum or parchment. It's cow skin that's been treated. So that is one of the most durable type of materials. So this book was actually built to last, and a lot of them did last. You would have sets of them in churches throughout all of Spain and a lot of Italy. So you can imagine that if they didn't get destroyed in World War II, or if there wasn't flooding or worms or rats or some of the other ravages of time, they did indeed survive. The biggest cause of their destruction, however, has been from people breaking them up. They tear out these vellum pages, and you can find quite a number of them, I'm sure, online for people who want to have a beautiful framed, 15th or 16th century piece of music above their piano, which I can understand, but to me it's a little bit sacrilegious to break up a wonderful book like this. So I can show you some more of the inside of the volume here. It's very impressive, large volume, as I said. Now, in terms of valuing these, they don't come to market like they used to. Years ago, I would see them with greater frequency, but a lot of them have disappeared off the market. One of the things I want to do is, see how complete it is, how many pages there are. This one is relatively complete. It might be missing a page or two that was removed or fell out of the years, but it's a good 120 pages of vellum. Another thing that influences the value, of course, is the amount of decoration and the initials. This is a relatively sparse manuscript in terms of that. I've seen examples where there's glorious gold and other colors that have been applied, and those can be extremely expensive. But the initials are extremely important in the value of the manuscript. And of course, the date, in terms of value, the earliest ones, if you get ones from the 1400s, are certainly tend to be more valuable than the ones from the 15 or 1600s, etc. There is also the origin. While this one is Spanish, I have encountered some that, have been from Mexico, for instance, where, they were done in Spanish colonial times. And Mexican antiphonals can be extremely expensive. They have to have some clear evidence of that. So There is a copy online, looking around in the retail trade. I saw in the low $20,000 currently. It's a very beautiful example of an antiphonal. Uh, and this one might not be strictly comparable, but I would say approximately at auction, a fine example like this these days would fetch between $5,000 and $7,000. So there you have an approximate value for one of these large, glorious books that are not from Harry Potter. So tune in next time for some more valuations of old books, and be sure to subscribe.